Hello, my name is Barbara Haskell, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to Agnes Pelton, Desert Transcendentalist. Pelton was a visionary artist whose paintings portrayed her experiences of what she called perfect consciousness or divine reality. She was born in Germany in 1881 to American parents, but returned to Brooklyn when she was 8 to live with her mother and grandmother. Her life was profoundly negatively impacted by family tragedies. Her father's early death from a morphine overdose when she was 9, and a highly public sex scandal involving her grandmother and the famous abolitionist preacher Henry Ward Beecher that she described later as cramping her mother's life and her life. In the teens, Pelton was part of the New York art world. She exhibited with a group of painters called the Introspectives and was represented in the famous Armory show by 3 works. Room decoration that you can see here was the largest of these early works, all of which depict isolated female figures communing with nature in dreamlike settings. As you will see in a moment, the ethereal forms in this work in the background become the dominant motifs in her later compositions.
Hi, I'm Sarah Humphreyville. Here you see 3 of the abstractions that Pelton began to make beginning in 1925. She started these works at her new home in Long Island, where she had moved to a windmill in a rural community following the death of her mother. These abstractions were derived from nature and also inspired by the writings of Kandinsky, who Pelton read. She wasn't interested in abstraction as such, or in coming forward with the next step in the progression of modernism, but really just saw these as the next logical step in her personal artistic growth.
Water is the subject of these 2 works. As an element that had no form of its own, but assumed the form of its container, it symbolized for her transformation and the relinquishing of ego that were necessary for spiritual growth. As Pelton's work evolved, she began to pair her ethereal abstract forms with recognizable images such as stars, rivers, mountains, and flowers, which she saw as symbols of the escape from material concerns into the world of spiritual enlightenment.
Some of Pelton's mature paintings began to take on narratives, which we see in both of these examples. A frequent topic was spiritual transcendence, as we see in Ami in Egypt on the right, with the swan venturing up the river. She also was inspired by nature, particularly after her move to the Cathedral City, California in 1932. Sandstorm on the left is inspired by a storm that she saw shortly after moving there. Pelton's mature paintings are absolutely exquisite technical examples of oil painting. She would build them up in glazes or thin layers of color, which allows each color to have its own luminosity. And so when you encounter these works in person, they really have a jewel box-like presence and seem to glow.
Pelton studied a wide range of esoteric and occult philosophy, but she was particularly drawn to spiritual movements in which women played central roles. In particular, Theosophy, founded by Helena Blavatsky, and Agni Yoga, founded by Nicholas and Helena Roerich. Mother of Silence on the left portrayed for Pelton the universe's divine female spirit, or world mother, as she called it. To Pelton, the painting was a living presence, and she often turned to it for guidance and advice. The work on the right, Evensong, is dominated by an urn, which is used in many religions to hold the ashes of the dead. Pelton infuses it here with an inner glow, sort of divine light, to portray the unity with the divine that she believed occurred in the afterlife. These 2 works are further examples of Pelton's spiritual narratives. Awakening on the left envisions the spiritual rebirth of her father. She portrayed his dark body on the left being awakened to a new life by a luminous golden trumpet flower in the dominant right-hand corner of the picture. On the right is Future, which Pelton described as a kind of pilgrim's progress, as she said, guiding viewers from darkness and oppression of materialism to the far-off mountain of release.
In the late 1940s and 1950s, Pelton embarked on a body of work centered on circles. As a form that had no beginning and no end, Pelton saw this shape as connected to infinity and also related to spiritual transcendence on the highest level. Pelton worked on these paintings slowly, her process becoming even more labored as she grew older. She was still working on them when she died in 1961 at the age of 79 of liver cancer.
Pelton's art was little known in her lifetime, but at a time when the world is unsettled and people are looking for meaning in things beyond the physical, Her visual portraits of the heightened world of spiritual enlightenment could not be more timely. We look forward to welcoming you to the show. Thank you.